It was my very first attempt at brioche stitch, and let's just say it didn't go smoothly. Oh no, I'm wrapped up. Okay. I have decided that I'm going to finish this project, so it is officially back in the whip pile. Hi everyone, welcome to Good Knits by SK. Here on YouTube, I'm Sherry. I am also Good Knits by SK on Instagram and Ravelry if you want to search for me there and give me a follow. Today I'm bringing you my second podcast episode. Sorry it's been a while since I did a new one. We actually had our friends here from Canada last week, so they were here for 5 days. And that kept me quite busy. I did do a little bit of knitting. I managed to finish a project, which I'll show you today. But we really wanted to spend as much time with them as possible, so that didn't leave me any space for filming a new episode. But I'm back. You know, I think for those that don't know or didn't watch my first episode, so I am originally from Calgary, Alberta in Canada. I live now in Amsterdam with my husband, and so I think, you know, if anybody is watching as an expat, you probably understand that there's nothing quite like having friends and family from back home come visit you. We have made a community here in Amsterdam, but it's never quite like having your best friends who've known you for years, know you inside and out. So it was just really nice to enjoy those moments. And you know, they've been to Amsterdam before, so we didn't really have to do all the touristy things. We were able to just sit and relax, have lots of good conversations. My friend is a fitness studio owner, so we went to a few spin classes here, and then, you know, some live music. It was just exactly what my soul needed. So that was really, really nice. I'm very sad to have them gone now, but that means I've had more time for knitting again, and I have the space to film an episode. We are having a heat wave all of a sudden in Amsterdam in September, following the summer that never was. I think we had our last, you know, nice weather spurt was end of June, early July, and other than that, it's been fairly cold and rainy and windy this summer. So while I appreciate that summer is making an attempted comeback, it's hot. And 30 degrees in a city with no air conditioning is never that much fun. But today I wanted to try to show off one of my summer knits from last year, since I didn't really make a whole lot this year and I've already shown you my Tolsta. So this is my fluffy crop top, which is by Leah Laika. Sorry if I got that name wrong in pronunciation. It's made up in soft silk mohair purple unicorn from Knitting for Olive, and it was my very first attempt at brioche stitch, and let's just say it didn't go smoothly. I did my very first version, which I got, you know, pretty much the whole way through the front panel, and realized I was doing the wrong stitch, which I probably would have caught if I had properly gauge stitched this, but I did not. Yeah, so it was about 3/4 of the size of my body, and I was thinking there's absolutely no way that I'm going to be able to block this. So I ripped it out. I started over. I don't even remember what went wrong the second time around, but definitely something did. I think I dropped some stitches. I had no idea how to fix them in brioche. So I started again, and I just remember my husband saying to me, like, knitting is serious business. How do you do this? Which was a great question. I was definitely losing my patience, but it was a top that I really wanted. I was determined that brioche couldn't be that complicated, so I need to be able to figure this out. It was a personal challenge. And so I started again. I joined the front and back, and you can see I made this lovely mistake, knitting design flaw when joining, and again, didn't know how to fix it in brioche, but figured I'm far enough along, I can live with it. Typically, I realized today I'm wearing this right side out, but typically I would actually reverse it to wear wrong side out, which is the beauty of brioche, because then the line isn't quite as noticeable. It just means then I also end up with the hem showing here, but it's such a small piece of fabric that usually my hair covers it. So yeah, I still love this piece. I do wear it. I'm actually quite proud of it, but it just goes to show sometimes not everything works out as planned, and that's okay. But it's definitely way too hot for this top here, so I can't wait after this podcast to take it off and put back on a different outfit because this is too much. I mentioned in my fall knitting plans video that there was a few updates on the projects that I had planned to frog for my first podcast episode. But in case you didn't watch that, I thought I would just repeat myself here because there was a lot of comments, really nice ones, on the cardigan number 4 from My Favorite Things Knitwear. So that was the mohair one. For a reminder, it was this half fisherman's rib cardi, which I had said, okay, I didn't know if I was loving the color. I had a few mistakes in it. And I was thinking maybe I would frog it and do something else with the yarn. But then after seeing how close I was to actually finishing it, since the body's done, this sleeve is about halfway, and everybody was very passionate about it, I have decided that I'm going to finish this project. So it is officially back in the whip pile. I haven't done anything on it yet, but I think once I start going back to the Thursday knit nights here in Amsterdam at the library, I think this is going to be my go-to knit night project because it's easy. On the sleeves, it's just literally knitting half fisherman's in the round. And so I think within the next couple months, I can finish this. And like I commented to a few people, worst case, it ends up being a sweater that I wear around the house. But I think it'll be warm in the Amsterdam winters when the apartment is cold. And yeah, it's really beautiful yarn. I need to do something with it and I want to make sure it doesn't go to waste. So very exciting. This will be finished and I don't have to frog mohair, which is great. Also the Thea top, which I was in the process of frogging, that was the Sadness Garn Line yarn. A woman from Scotland, Gay, reached out to me and offered to pay for the shipping if I sent it to her. So that went off to her a couple days ago and I'm super excited to see what she makes with it. And I'm just glad that it's going to a good home and will get a second life because yeah, the yarn kept getting tangled. I didn't really have the patience for it, but it's good to know that so many people would be willing to frog projects. So going forward, if I run into that situation again with yarn that is becoming tangled, I will definitely say something here or on Instagram, and if people are willing to pay for shipping, then it's all yours. So today, I have a bunch of stuff to dive into. I only have one finished object, a couple whips, and then if you saw my fall knitting plans video, you will know that I have quite ambitious plans for this season, and so I already started buying yarn and I am ready to go. And now I will show you the progress that I have already made, even if it's tiny. So to kick it off, my finished object. I finished my Cumulus Tee by Petite Knit. This is knit up in Knitting for Olive Pure Silk. And I am super happy with the color and fit of it. So this is actually still being wet blocked. I pulled it off the mats just for this podcast. I finished it yesterday at like 8 p.m. mostly so that I could film this episode. If I'm being honest, I really didn't want to film one without a single finished object. So, you know, this one actually, for the most part, went smoothly. You know, it did take a long time, I think from start to finish for me. It was about a 2-month project. I wasn't knitting it religiously or monogamously. And we had summer vacation, we had friends visit, also earlier in August. So it wasn't my only project, and that's why it took so long in this case. But also the 3mm needles made this a very slow project. And, you know, it was going smoothly until I got to the sleeves, and I didn't have a short pair of 3mm needles and a short cord. So I decided to do magic loop, and that did not go as I wanted it to. So I always have the challenge with magic loop where I end up with horrible laddering. So I got about a few centimeters in. I had done the first round of decreases and I was looking at the sleeve. I'll insert, I think I took a video of what it was looking like. And I realized I can't stick with this. It looks so bad. So I opted to rip it out and start over. I did some research on magic loop and how to fix the laddering issue, which the advice was not super helpful. It's sort of, it depends on your tension and you as a knitter, and there's no one way to fix it. So I was like, okay, the advice for if your tension is usually pretty good was don't pull too tightly. So I tried that because usually I have pretty good tension on my needles. And the ladder got better, but it definitely didn't go away. So I decided to just put it on hold. I basically knit the whole sleeve and then stopped and reevaluated. And I'm like, okay, I think I just need to buy another set of needles. So I bought the 10 centimeter Chow Goose in 3mm, which I didn't have. I had the 13 centimeter from the set, well, no, not even the set I bought, from the extra pair of 3mm that I'd already bought. And then used a 20 centimeter cord. So also at this point, I bought my Chow Goose set a month ago, and I think I've already put 60 euros in extra cords, cable stoppers, and needles. So knitting, it's very expensive. So I got that. I put the next sleeve on the 3mm short needles with the shorter cord and was able to do it in the round. It was a little bit tight, but definitely much better. So I finished that sleeve with no issues. I went back, I ripped out the first sleeve again, started over, and then finished it yesterday. So this top, I was a little bit over by the time I finished. I'm very happy it's off my needle. I think once it's dry, I'm gonna be really happy with it and get a lot of wear, but I'll report back on that in my next episode, hopefully when I'm also able to wear it and show you guys the actual fit. But I just don't wanna put it on while it's wet blocking right now. So, getting into whips, I have my Cardi jumper, which I've also made some progress on. So last time I showed it to you, I had just done one round of the decreases on the side here. So I have now done 2, and I'm halfway through the 3rd set. And when I measured yesterday, I have 10 centimeters left of the body before I start the ribbing. So really happy with how this is going. This is the Cardi jumper by Burt Knits. I've also just been really happy with the designer. She mentioned on her Instagram that she was going to have some mods available for it. Oh no, I'm wrapped up. Okay, let's just make sure I didn't pull anything off the needles. No, okay, we're good. She mentioned on her Instagram that she was going to have some mods available for this one. So I reached out to her to ask what they would be, because I was thinking maybe I would want to do a different finish instead of the ribbing. So maybe an I-cord or double folded hem for the sleeves and the body. But her and I were chatting. She said she had tried the double folded hem before. It didn't really suit the cardigan. She wasn't planning an I-cord, but she did link me to one of the test knitters that had done one. So I may give that a try, see how it goes once I get there, or just stick with the ribbing. But yeah, really nice pattern so far, super clear. I was reading it yesterday though and saw just how much I have left once I get to the I-cord trim for the button band, the sleeves. There's still a long way to go on this one, but I also ordered the buttons yesterday from a store in Germany, so they should be here in a few days, and then I can kind of see how these are going to pair together. So I went with the suggested buttons that the designer had picked, and I think they're going to go really nice with this knitting for all of putty, mohair, and merino. So that is where that is. So I think by the time I film my next podcast, I will probably actually be done the body and be on to, I think the next piece I'll do is the I-cord trim for the button band. Then we have a new project that you guys didn't see last time, but you did see the yarn for it. So this is the Sophie shawl. So I am essentially knitting the medium size in drops. This is the Nepal. Oh, there's a hair in it. So I'm just gonna go knit 2 balls, and then once I get to that point, knit down for 2 balls. So it'll probably be around the medium size or something like that. But when I was starting this, I had really bad insomnia one night, and so it was 2:30 in the morning. I decided I'm just gonna get up and knit, and I'll work on this project because it's simple, what could possibly go wrong? And then the next day I was working on it and realized, I don't know if you can see it, I somehow increased on the wrong side. So I did one here, which I think once I block it and actually wear it isn't gonna be super noticeable. And because this is cheap yarn and it's more of a gift knit or just project for myself for the winter, it wasn't really worth it to go back and fix it. But as I work on it more, I notice it more and more. So I think it's a good lesson. Do not knit at 2 in the morning. Not the smartest idea if you have anything that's not just pure stockinette, but it's fine. I think I said in my last episode, the reason that I wanted to knit with this, or knit this project specifically, is because I really wanted to try some of the drops yarn to see how I felt about it, because maybe this would be a good inexpensive option for sweater projects. So now that I've worked with the drops Nepal, I will say this is not my favorite yarn. For example, I was knitting in shorts yesterday on this project, and it was rubbing my leg, and I could just feel how itchy it was. So there's something that's scratchy about this yarn that I am not loving. So I don't think this is something I would actually knit a sweater in. I think it's fine for this project. I'll, wear it when I go outside. It is warm, but I think the Drops Lima, from what I felt so far, just holding that, is maybe a better option for scarves or sweaters in the future. So I'm gonna keep going on this, see how I feel, but I don't know if this yarn would be a buy again for me. But it's such a good price that definitely worth trying. I didn't lose anything. And when I'm done this version of the Sophie shawl, I will be starting on the Drops Lima version. So I want to knit the same scarf or same shawl in a different Drops yarn. So that is that one. Then for my fall knitting plans, I said I was going to be working on blouse number 2 from my Favorite Things knitwear. I was originally planning to use, which yarn was it? The Rama Petunia yarn. I had every intention of buying that one, and then when I started to search for it, I had a really tough time finding it. So there was a couple shops within the EU that had it, but their color palette was really limited, and I specifically wanted a navy like the pattern photos showed, and nobody had that. So I started to look across Europe in general, so the Nordics, Switzerland, to see if maybe I could find it there. And I did find it at a shop in Norway called Garntopia that I've ordered from before. They're incredible. They have an amazing selection of yarn, but their shipping is $25.99. So while the price of the yarn was cheaper than other places, the cost of shipping just was too much for me to swallow. So I decided, okay, now is the moment to maybe change plans, go with the flow. Let's see what else is out there. So I went on Ravelry and I looked up pure cotton yarns in a DK weight to see what I could find. And when I looked at what was most popular but also well rated, I actually came across, it was in the top 5 yarns, the Drops Cotton Merino. So they had this marine blue, which was really, really close to the color that I wanted. And it was really inexpensive. I think it was $3.57 per ball. So 10 balls was around 35 euros plus a little bit in shipping, which the Rama Petunia, I'm pretty sure everywhere I found it, I would have been spending at least 75 to 80 euros. So I figured this is a gamble worth taking. I'd buy it. If I didn't like it for this project, I could use it for something else. But at least this way, if it does work out, then I save some money and I'll still get a nice top out of it. So I swatched. Look how beautiful this pattern is. While I was working with the yarn, I was a little bit worried because, as with most cottons, it does this thing where it starts to separate. And there is a point where a piece of yarn had already kind of done that at the start. So I was a little bit worried as I worked with it, and it just, especially before blocking, it just felt really tight and it wasn't exactly what I was expecting. But I will say post blocking, I'm really happy with this yarn. It feels soft. The texture shows up really, really nice in it. And I think it's gonna work well. I also really like the color. The funny thing though about this swatch, it took me a little bit of time to get used to the 8 pattern repeat. And somehow I cast on 30 stitches for this. I know because I double checked at the beginning. And at the end, I ended up with 27. So I don't know how that happened. I do know at the start here, I ended up doing something with a stitch, ended up with an extra yarn over, decided to add a stitch to fix it, and then totally kind of made my pattern uneven. But yeah, I don't know where those other 3 stitches went. So that's okay though, because I was still able to get gauge, which is exactly on, and that makes sense because this cotton merino from Drops is exactly the same weight and meterage as the Rama Petunia. So I think that's a really good sub, definitely worth looking into. And that project is going to get cast on probably this weekend. And I will say, I just watched Emily from High Fiber Knits' new podcast. So she was talking about her favorite fall things, and I was very much influenced. She was talking about a neck reading light that she bought, which she was also influenced by. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant, because even making this gauge swatch was already a challenge, even though it's not dark yet, because working in this blue, the second, you know, it's evening and the lights start to dim, it's very challenging. So I immediately went on bol.com, which is kind of the Netherlands equivalent of Amazon, and bought one for 22 euros yesterday. So that arrives on Monday. I'm very excited. I will report back on how that looks, but great tip from Emily. So thank you for that. And then the other project that I was super excited about was the Salty Day sweater. So I was trying to figure out in my fall knitting plans video which yarn I wanted to use. The people that commented on that video all agreed the, which is it? I think it's Durarum, yeah, Durarum Natura Gilliatt was the way to go. So I ended up buying this. I'm a little bit worried that the gray heathering in this might take away from the pattern, but I just love this color so much, and this yarn is so squishy and feels so nice. So I think this is going to be a really good yarn for this specific pattern. I also gauge swatch for this. Which way does it go? This way. Which I immediately messed up here at the bottom, but that's fine. I kept going, and the gauge is supposed to be 17 stitches by I think 24, but they also, she includes in this pattern the pre-blocking gauge, which said 19 by 25. And so after I blocked, that was exactly what I got, and I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, okay, I got gauge, ready to cast on, and then went back and read it and realized, oh, it's supposed to be 17. So I need to switch needles on this. I think I'm gonna go up to a 5.5. I really don't want to gauge again. Or I don't want to swatch again. So I think I'm just gonna cast it on and then check as I go. Because yeah, I want this on my needles. So yeah, I think, you know, if I look at how the pattern, it's a 1x2 rib in this case. I think it's showing in this yarn quite nice. So I think I'm gonna be okay for the pattern itself. So really happy with that one. And then also my yarn buying spree, I ended up buying the yarn for the cardigan number 9, which I also talked about. And I wasn't sure exactly what color I was going to do that in, so I looked at all the options from the merino for knitting for olive and opted for the bottle green. which will go perfectly with the blazers that I have. It will go really nice with the khaki trousers that I have. So I think this will be a nice color, and I will probably also cast this one on quite soon because I'd like to be able to wear this. So I think, yeah, if I look at everything, I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about today. You know, if there's any specific questions that you have for me that you want me to answer in upcoming episodes, I realize I haven't really dug into a whole lot about myself specifically, how I ended up in Amsterdam, my personal life. So if there's any questions that you guys want to know personal or knitting wise from me, please let me know, and maybe I'll do a viewer question episode. But I also am trying to keep it to the knitting because I figure that's what people are here for. So just let me know if there's more that you want to know about me, and I'm happy to answer that. And yeah, I think that's it for my second episode. Thank you so much for joining today. And I can't wait to show you the progress on my projects.